Thank you, Lynn. When Deb Carew suggested this song that we're going to sing later, that she's going to sing later, and the concept of being a blessing to the world, being a blessing to others, that's a great idea, right? Living my life as a blessing, that's good. Now, many say that blessings are divinely sourced. Some blessings go direct, and for this sermon, whatever the source may be, however divine any one particular person wants to name that source, these blessings are definitely through human actions and human words. We are being a blessing. We are passing on blessings. Okay, and because I overthink things, what is it to be a blessing? To do good. Okay, what is it to do good? Is it to be all smiles and kind words and happiness and never, ever notice anything bad or wrong? Never say anything that might be conflictual? Is it to accomplish amazing things in the world? Build housing for the homeless, build dams that will create power for millions of people, but be feared or ignored by your family at home? Is it standing in a pile of poo and desperately spraying perfume all around you? And what if I get something out of the blessing? Does it still count? If what I've done makes me feel good, does it still count if I get some of the blessing that I've given others? Our Puritan ancestors would say no, by the way. I disagree. But where does that go? Is a blessing some set of words that doesn't change anything and is forgotten by noon the next day, but it sounded good in the moment? I hope to have better answers here in a while. But I want to point out that sometimes it's hard to know even. So the story for all ages, the farmer that had things happen, and each time he says, well, maybe. That could be good, that could be bad. Each thing we thought we knew what was going to happen and it turned out differently. Those of us who watch The Good Place may have seen the episode that talks about how we don't really know, that we are all complicit in unjust and difficult actions, that even buying a tomato at the store involves all sorts of things happening that we didn't intend, that may do damage to our world. Even the golden rule, do unto others what you would have do unto you. Maybe I want to do something, maybe I want something done to me that my sister doesn't like, that my neighbor doesn't want to have happen. The platinum rules, do unto others as they would have done to them. So you have to ask them and believe them. All of which is to say, we don't always know the ultimate outcomes of our actions. And that's okay. If we get too caught up in never doing anything until we know exactly the benefits of all those things, we'll never do anything, or we will drive ourselves to distraction trying to think about the stuff. We do our best with the information we have at the time, and that's good enough, I truly believe. So with that aside, what is it to be a blessing? To do good, that's so nebulous. I want a little more specificity. It used to be that I had a email signature from Rumi: be a lamp or a lifeboat or a ladder. Now, there are some specifics. It may be that Coleman Barks did a lot of translation of Rumi, and so a lot of the stuff that we see in the world that says it was written by Rumi wasn't actually. Barks admitted that he wasn't always using exact translations and sort of added some poetry of his own. Doesn't make it less wise necessarily, but it does sort of call it some question about whether or not it really was Rumi that made these things. I can't find anywhere that says this was not Rumi. And what I did find is some more of the quotation. Be a lamp or a lifeboat or a ladder, help someone's soul heal. Walk out of your house like a shepherd. Now that really grabbed me. Walk out of my house like a shepherd. And imagine that everyone I come across is one of my charges, is someone that I have deep regard for, that I feel compassion and a little bit of not necessarily ownership, but responsibility for. And so I walk out into the world and I need to build a wall to protect these people. I need to chase away a predator from those people. I need to feed and soothe and comfort those nearby. I need to feed and soothe myself so that I'm available to do that work tomorrow, and next week, and next year. Just really gripped me. I like the idea of being a shepherd. So let's test our hypothesis against some standard blessings here. Yesterday, as I was writing this, I often have Chinese food while I write the sermon. I find it works better, makes my brain work somehow. Anyway, it might be I'm rationalizing things, I don't know. But anyway, I went into Tasty Chen's and brought out my food and couldn't get into the car because the keys had been locked inside. And I could walk home the mile or so, but I walked in, and the nice lady at Tasty Chen's allowed me to call Becky and ask her to bring a spare key and come get me back in the car. And so she did. Becky's saving me was a blessing. And that's kind of her being a shepherd. I'm going to go with all that. Recently, one of our dear friends was in the hospital. And people came together and brought cards and gifts and a basket of goodies. Did that feel like a blessing? There you go. That seems like it counts. Recently, I was with some folks, and one of the people there was making a joke and a little gentle ribbing of their spouse, and then you could see something change in her face. And she quickly said, "That I did not mean that passive aggressively. It was a joke. If that were a real concern, I would bring it up and state it plainly." Clearly, they had had conversations about things, wanted to communicate clearly, and she knew there was a possibility for misunderstanding and wanted to get out in front of it. I don't know if that's exactly being a shepherd, but it sure feels like a blessing in that relationship. So that makes sense to me. And then there's this other thing. How many of you, I'm not going to ask, I'll allow you to contemplate it yourself. How many of us, when you leave your house, be a shepherd, how many was the response? Oh, good God, I'm already too busy and too overwhelmed to shepherd one more creature. Right? Some of us are pretty short supply of energy and enthusiasm. So perhaps you've heard this story, that the reason we say bless you when someone sneezes is this old superstition that when you sneezed, your soul left your body and a demon might jump in and possess you. And they say bless you, meaning that you're lucky your soul came back into you and the soul didn't take you over, or possibly it means that, they say bless you to drive the demon back out so you can get back in. There's no proof of any of this. We know that people have been saying it for a very long time. We know this story of an explanation has happened for a very long time. We don't really know why we say bless you when someone sneezes, but we do. And it seems to me as if the whole world has sneezed and our soul is not fully in our body anymore. And I don't mean soul as this particular thing that God created and is ineffable and lives on after we die. If you believe that, good for you. If you don't, fine. But I want to say soul is energy, is liveliness. Soul is that inside us that grounds us and heals us and inspires us. And as I look around at the mall or driving in the world, I see a lot of people with not much soul these days. The energy level is low. And we don't feel like we have energy to doing a lot of things. Sometimes. The whole world has sneezed, and we are all of us collectively holding our breath, hoping that no one possessed our body, that there's no demon taking over, or at least that our energy or our joy, our soul returns to us and we feel enlivened again. And then we can all say, bless you to each other again. This all makes me think of our opening words from Sean Dennison, paraphrasing their quote, do something, anything, so alive and extravagant that it awakens and calls you to discard despair, abandon apathy, do whatever brings you back to life. These days, it feels to me like even a small gesture might seem extravagant enough to call us back to life. Any gentle word, any boundary kindly set might awaken us and restore us a bit to life. One moment in a whole day, a single blessed and blessing response in an entire week can still be life-giving to us. And we might even surprise ourselves. As we heard in our first reading, Rebecca Parker, the choice to bless the world is more than an act of will. It's an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. In the midst of a global sneeze, in the middle of a personal whole body tension, we may yet recognize the beauty and the grace and the mystery with which the universe is blessing us all the time. And we might just pass that blessing along to the next person we meet. So may we be. Blessed be, and amen.